the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League was formally established on the 20th of July 1914. Therefore today marks the 110th anniversary since the founding of the UNIA-ACL under the leadership of the Most Honourable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. 10 years ago, the Pan-African world gathered to celebrate the UNIA-ACL centenary, and London was no different. A coalition of Garveyite and broader Pan-African organizations collaborated to host a centennial celebration. We are proud to share with you the keynote addresses from this monumental occasion. Here presented to you as What We Have Done, delivered by Tafadzwa ShakaRa Bandaka, and What We Still Must Do, delivered by Elder Cecil Gutzmore. Complete with artistic presentations from Ankh Anum and Soldier MC. We trust this humble offering will bring you information and inspiration. May we all join forces in the whirlwind. Ashe.
Here, so really it gives me great pleasure to bring to the rostrum our keynote presentation is 100 Years of Garveyism and the UNIA, the Black Print for African Liberation, and it gives me great pleasure to bring to the rostrum Tafadzwa ShakaRa Bandaka from the Akebulan Revivalist Movement, Tenaimwari.
All right, Tenaimwari. I feel to move, so we're going to come from behind the rostrum today. Everybody all right? Yeah, I'll make someone just EQ this mic for me, please. Make it sound like Barry White. Okay. Garvey lives! Mosiah lives! All right, my job in the few moments that we have, can everybody see the screen clearly? Everybody bless? Okay. Yes, I have a few short moments to really relate to you the magnificence of Marcus Mosiah Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. There is not enough time in the time that I have been allotted to be able to accomplish this task, do it justice. We're going to do the best that we can. Is everybody okay? Yeah. Are you sure? Yeah. This is a presentation that we dub Garvey and Garveyism 101. It's a foundational kind of, introductory presentation to give brothers and sisters the basics, regarding the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And as a part of the 100-year centenary celebrations of the UNIA, myself and my brothers and sisters in the army, our Akebulan Revivalist Movement Youth, the army, are basically taking this on the road. So wherever you want it, brothers and sisters, it shall be there for you, Wherever you want it, in the country, in the world, as long as you're willing to pay airfare and them kind of things there, you know what I mean? All right? So so if you want it, then let us know. My brother, Reverend Anika, speak to him, or my sister in the handle, speak to her, and they will, arrange the situation nice and easy, and we will come and we'll deliver this for you, brothers and sisters. Okay? Is that all right? All right, let's move on. So yes, we all know why we're here, and really what I want to try and do is give you an idea of why the UNIA-ACL was such an important, foundational, and robust organization that will trigger worldwide celebrations. It's very important that we understand that there are celebrations taking place today all around the world in the name of 100 years of Garvey and Garveyism, brothers and sisters. Taking place all over the USA, throughout the Caribbean, on Mama Africa, So we're in a historical and universal synchrony at the moment, brothers and sisters. Don't have time to go into the spiritual significance of that right about now, but let's hold us down. The Africans around the world at this particular moment in time are gathering to honor and celebrate this 100th anniversary of the UNIA-ACL. Yeah? Okay, can we just hail the African world, please? African world, all right. So understanding Garveyism, in the Akebulan Revivalist Movement, we say that Garveyism is the sum total of the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. It is the whole manifestation of the man, the vision, and the plan. We heard a lot about the man from Auntie Jackie earlier on, so I'm not going to go over too much of it, brothers and sisters. And those of you who missed it, you should have been on time, but the site got. All right? But just for those, but truthfully, I'm a merciful black man. There's a few points here, brothers and sisters, I'm not going to go into, but Marcus Mosiah Garvey was born on the 17th of Mosiah, 1887. Yeah? Now, you can read what's up on the screen as I talk, but it's very important for us to understand the context, yeah, in which Marcus Mosiah Garvey was born, and not just the date. We're dealing with 1887. 1887 was 2 years after the Berlin Conference, which was from 1884 to 1885. Yeah, the Berlin Conference was the conference in which European nations consolidated and organized their colonization of the African continent, following almost a century of invasion after the so-called abolition of the so-called slave trade. I said so-called abolition of the so-called slave trade because there was no abolition and there was nothing called the slave trade. Because you cannot trade in human beings, brothers and sisters. Our ancestors are human beings. We're not goods. Make sense? So the so-called abolition of the so-called slave trade, brothers and sisters, took place. Yeah? And so therefore, and when I say a series of bloody massacre invasions, I'm talking about invasions. Yeah? And not just invasions, but suppression of rebellion, brothers and sisters. Does that make sense? So, for example, the British government, while they were going around the world talking about how they want to abolish slavery, were trying to figure out ways of squashing the revolution that was taking place in Haiti, brothers and sisters, that came to its fruition in 1804 under the leadership of Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Yeah? And as a result of that revolution, Haiti developed the first modern constitution to completely outlaw slavery. You follow me, brothers and sisters? Yeah? Okay. So massacres and invasions are taking place all over the African continent. Africans in America, following the ending, so-called, of slavery in the formal sense in America, were facing Jim Crow and lynching. Yeah? On a mass scale. To a degree that the violence that was perpetrated against African people in America post-slavery, in the post-slavery era, some say was even worse than the violence that we suffered during slavery, brothers and sisters. Much of the time. Does that make sense? In the Caribbean, we're dealing with colonization, similar things. Violence, suppression, degradation of the African in terms of trying to uplift ourselves. Does that make sense? And so there are historians who suggest that at this time, the late 1800s, Africans were in a position whereby we could be either re-enslaved or become on the road to extinction. Might sound far-fetched to some, but there's some people called the Aborigines, brothers and sisters. There's some people called the Maoris, brothers and sisters. There's some people called the Aztecs, brothers and sisters, who came up against the wicked European. Yeah? And decided to fight back. And as a result, the wicked European unleashed the full extent of his wickedness against them. Does that make sense? And to this day, yeah, we very rarely see them, brothers and sisters. Does that make, are you following me? They have a reparations movement going on at the moment, though, brothers and sisters. You also need to know that. Yeah? But it's not too far-fetched to suggest that Africans could either be re-enslaved or become extinct. And so this was the context in which Papa Garvey was born. It's very important for you to understand that, for you to understand the significance of why the UNIA was such an important organization. Yeah? So, you know that he, as was said earlier, he led a lot of strikes. Yeah? The importance of these strikes, brothers and sisters, is that the fact that when Marcus Mosiah Garvey led those strikes, he was in a position of power, in the sense that he was given privilege, and he was even they tried to entice him with promises of even more privilege if he sided with his superiors against the interests of the workers, and he decided to side with the workers against the interests of their imperialists and bosses. You following, brothers and sisters? Okay, so right, we ain't got time to go into all of this, but just know that it's very important stuff. All right? Yeah. So the vision of Papa Garvey, yeah, as was read earlier, I started taking interest in the politics of my country, and then I saw injustices done to my race because it was black. I went traveling to South and Central America to find out if it was so elsewhere, and I found the same situation. I sailed to Europe and found again the same stumbling block: you are black. This is a man who was traveling the world now, looking specifically to study the condition of African people. Young man in his 20s, decided he was going to go around the world specifically to study the condition of African people. He said, I read of the conditions in America. I read Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington, and then my doom of being a race leader dawned upon me. Important thing that you need to know about Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington developed a school, an institute, educational institute called the Tuskegee Institute. Tuskegee Institute was built by the students who studied in the institute, brothers and sisters. But not only did they build the building that they were educated within, they also made the bricks that built the building. You know, right? Yeah, you hear what I said. Yeah, you hear what I said. Yeah, you hear what I said. I said, not only did they build the building that they were schooled in, they also made the bricks that built the building. Very important for you to understand that, because this is the reason why Papa Garvey was so inspired by the example of Booker T. Washington, brothers and sisters. Are you following me? Are you sure? Garvey lives? Messiah lives. In London, after I traveled through almost half of Europe, I asked, where is the black man and woman's government? Government. Where are their queens and kings and kingdoms? Where are their presidents, their countries, their ambassadors, their armies, their navies, their men and women of big affairs? I looked around and I saw none. Then I said, I will help to create them. What I want you to pay attention to here, brothers and sisters, is the fact that he's talking about a nation. He's talking about a nation. Where are their governments? Where are their queens and kings and kingdoms, their armies, their navies, their ambassadors, their men and women of big affairs? So from the inception of the UNIA-ACL, brothers and sisters, it was a nation-building agenda. You're not hearing me, I say. He's thinking worldwide. And that is manifested, brothers and sisters, in the meaning of the name, the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. Universal. That means everywhere. That's what that means, you know. It means everywhere. And Papa Garvey was fond of calling it the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League of the world. That means everywhere. You following me? So from the inception of the UNIA, brothers and sisters, we're talking about a vision that was global. It was not regional. It wasn't local. It wasn't just concerned with Africans in Jamaica, Africans in America, Africans in Britain. It was concerned with every African on the planet. And just as a note, we give honor and praise to the name of Amy Ashwood Garvey, as we did earlier on, as a founder member of the UNIA-ACL, brothers and sisters. Very, very revolutionary name. Don't sleep on how revolutionary the name was, because we're dealing with an era in which the word Negro was the vogue for referring to African people. Colored hadn't even really kicked in yet. You following me? So when a man says the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League of the world, that identification with Africanness is quite important. But African Communities League of the world, Lord of mercy, very serious things. It is for me to inform you, Papa Garvey explaining the vision and the mission of the UNIA, that the Universal Negro Improvement Association is an organization that seeks to unite into one solid body the 400 million Africans of the world, to link up the 15 million Africans in the United States with the 30 million Africans in the West Indies and the 40 million Africans of South and Central America and the 280 million Africans of Africa, for the purpose of furthering our industrial, commercial, educational, social and political conditions. Bear in mind that some people question Papa Garvey's mathematics in the sense that 400 million was the estimated number of Africans on the planet at the time. Whether he was wrong or right, brothers and sisters, is not really that important. All you need to know is that when he said 400 million, he meant everybody. The whole away. Yeah? So I'm talking every single African upon every square inch of the planet Earth is who Papa Garvey was talking about. You following me? People call the Garvey movement the Back to Africa movement. That was part of the program. Yes, there was a Back to Africa element of it. But Papa Garvey said they're organizing Africans for the purpose of furthering our industrial, commercial, educational, social, and political conditions. That means wherever we are, not just back to Africa, you know, wherever we're there. Wherever you are as an African, you should be interested in furthering our industrial, commercial, social, and educational and political conditions. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's move forward right about now. The Universal Negro Improvement Association was founded on the 20th of July, 1914, as you should know by now. grew to a size of over 11 million. And that's a conservative estimate according to Baba Tony Martin. Over 11 million members worldwide. Over 1,000 branches in over 40 countries. 2 shipping companies, an army defense and security unit, wholesale, retail, manufacturing businesses, schools, newspapers, international industrial development programs, brothers and sisters. Let's break it down because we're dealing with institution building. Why are we here celebrating the UNIA-ACL right about now? Is it because they campaigned very well? Is it because they marched very well? Is it because they were famous for going on streets and chanting no justice, no peace? No. Brothers and sisters, much more than that was going on in the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. So the program of the UNIA was essentially an institution building program. In order to build a nation, you need institutions. As the great historian John Henrik Clarke says, a people rise and fall within the context of institutions. They rise for no other reason. Rise no other way and fall for no other reason. So therefore, the strength of a people is going to be based upon the strength of the institutions that they build. So we have to go beyond campaign politics, and demonstrations. We have to look at what are the needs of the African. As Elder Cecil was fond of saying, ask the Garveyite question. What are the conditions of the people? What are the needs of the people? And then build institutions to meet those needs, brothers and sisters. So, there's a problem of unemployment in the African community. Therefore, the UNIA creates the Negro Factories Incorporated. The Negro Factories Incorporated a grocery stores and all kinds of different stores. Laundry, a printing press, restaurants, hotels, trucking company. And factories that made black doughs. The children of the UNIA were not allowed to play with white doughs. So the UNIA made black doughs for them to play with. It's as simple as that. Tailoring, dressmaking, a millinery and a printing press. Now what I want you to pay attention to, brothers and sisters, is that we're dealing with a 360 degrees economic spectrum. Because we're dealing with grocery stores, laundrettes, these kinds of things, hotels, where. That takes care of retail. That means you can go into the shop and you can buy your things from an African. Okay. But the UNIA was also taking care of manufacturing. Alright. So how was the things that were being manufactured transported to the retail establishment? With a truck. A UNIA trucking company. Retail, manufacturing, distribution. Today, brothers and sisters, we just about control retailing. We're just about in retailing. We don't control it at all. Right? We're just about in retailing. You're following me? All right. The UNIA, brothers and sisters, as a result, employed over 1,000 Africans in Harlem alone. In Harlem, one borough within New York City. 1,000 people they employed. Yeah? Now, that's the equivalent of us employing 1,000 Africans in just East London, let's say. You following me? Alright, let's make it bigger. Let's say London. Imagine 1,000 Africans in London were employed by another African. Lord of mercy. Serious thing. Alright, so we're dealing with the 19-teens and the 1920s when all these things are being built in, brothers and sisters. We're dealing with the Black Star Line now. Black Star Line purchased 4 ships, laid the foundation for international trade and travel, brothers and sisters. The ships made various voyages transporting goods. Yeah, you know what I mean? Fruit and veg, drink and these kinds of things between America, around the Americas, let's say. Yeah, from the United States of America to the Caribbean, South and Central America. Does that make sense? And the point was basically to develop an institution that was responsible for linking up the African world through trade and industry. Not just transporting African people back to Africa. Yeah? But linking up the African world through trade and industry. This is the equivalent, brothers and sisters, of an African owning and controlling an airline in this day and age. Yeah? Of an African organization owning and controlling an airline in this day and age. You following me? And it's important that we say organization, because who's seen the film Soul Plane? Who's seen Soul Plane? You seen Soul Plane? Yeah. This ain't Soul Plane. This is not Soul Plane, brothers and sisters. It's something very, very different. Okay? Because how they were able to amass the money, the funds to buy those ships, is that they sold shares to the African people of the world. The African people of the world invested in the business by buying shares, which means that this was a business that was controlled by the people, owned by the people, and put to the services of the people. Does that make sense, brothers and sisters? This is very, very revolutionary economics. Yeah? A business that is owned by the people because they bought the shares. So it wasn't owned by a board of directors, Papa Garvey and friend them. It was owned by the people. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Y'all hear what I'm saying? Y'all hear what I'm saying? Right. The Universal African Legionnaires. This was the beginnings of an army. Where's the black man and woman's army and their navy? See it here? Look at those strong African men, brothers and sisters. Really, really imperative. Because as I said, Africans were facing daily violence at the hands of the KKK, the police, and these kinds of things. And also there was the issue of colonization. How were Europe able to colonize Africa? By sending their armies to Africa, correct? So therefore the African needs his own military to be able to kick them out. You following me? Now look at these African men, brothers and sisters. The fact of the matter is that during, and they did actually get into bust-ups, yeah, with the KKK and the police and them thing. They shut their fire. It's not a joke. All right? And also, even bigger than that, when Mussolini took fast, yeah, and decided he was going to invade Ethiopia, Africans, Garveyites, signed on the dotted line and went to Ethiopia to fight on behalf of the Emperor Haile Selassie. Yeah? No joke business. That's a historical fact. Let it be known. All right, moving on. Not only the men in the UNIA were militarily trained, brothers and sisters, the sisters were also, because we don't know that the African woman is a natural warrior queen. Don't need no encouragement to get on the front line. So, we have the Universal Motor Corps, yeah? And which was a military wing exclusively made up of women. All right, let's go further. Bigging up some of the prominent women organizers in the UNIA. You know, a lot of the time we say that in terms of the African liberation history, that oftentimes it's male orientated. Yeah, we hear a lot about the males and we don't hear a lot about the women. I'm saying that the UNIA-ACL is an exception to this rule, because most of the names, common names that you hear about, other than Marcus Mosiah Garvey, are women in the UNIA. Most of the more prominent names, and these are just a few of them. Henrietta Vinton Davis, who was one of the people that led a delegation, brothers and sisters, to Liberia when the UNIA was looking to relocate itself and establish itself on the African continent. Mama Henrietta Vinton Davis led the delegation, yeah? And Papa Garvey said that something along the lines of that she was the greatest gift in the Negro race. That's what he said about her. All right? Queen Mother Moore, die-hard, long life living Garveyite, joined the UNIA when she was 17 years old and died on the road at the age of 90. What's it? Nuts it. Lifelong in the thing. 98 years old. Yeah? Joined when she was 17. I ain't going to say no more about that. And we should know who this is. Who is this, brothers and sisters? The mother of Omowale Malcolm X. Yeah? The mother of Omowale Malcolm X. Malcolm X's mother and father, Earl and Louise Little, met in the UNIA and were leading members of branches in the UNIA. I say branches because they moved around the United States of America, and wherever they went, they either joined the branch or established the branch. Omowale Malcolm X's father, Earl Little, was known as a Baptist preacher who would preach more Garveyism than Jesus in his church. He was really dealing with the church of Garvey over Christ, brothers and sisters. That's what he was dealing with. The Church of Messiah over Christ. Yeah, and Louise Little was a branch secretary and also editor of the newspaper, brothers and sisters. Yeah, in where she was, used to edit and help, especially with regards to women's issues and so on and so forth. Powerful African women that we need to know about. So when you see a Malcolm X come up in the 1960s, it never come from nowhere. See it there? And a little thing that I learned as well, when Papa Garvey was on the run from the US state, he used to have hideouts, different places that he used to go and hide out, safe houses, and the house of Earl and Louise Little was one of those houses, brothers and sisters. Yeah? All right. Institution building, the Black Cross nurses, which according to certain accounts, was the most active auxiliary of the UNIA, made up predominantly of African women who made up approximately 60% of the organization and in and around half of its leadership. Talking about leadership at all levels, yeah, of the organization. And African women in the UNIA had these prominent positions and roles before European women in European societies had the right to vote and the right to education. And the Black Cross nurses were responsible for studying the health of African people, studying diseases amongst African people, cures among African people. They were also responsible for midwifery services, yeah, running clinics, day clinics, yeah, all manners of social welfare there. And they also had a key role in organizing the youth and the children, the education system, because the UNIA ran schools. You following me? Yeah, they played a key role in developing the young men and women, not the children, the younger adults. Does that make sense? That were organized in an auxiliary called the juveniles. Black Cross nurses had a very key role in dealing with that. The Negro World newspaper, brothers and sisters, which, as far as my research suggests, is the first international weekly newspaper ever in history. The first weekly newspaper internationally ever in history. Yeah? The Negro World grew to be the Garvey movement's #1 propaganda machinery. Little story for you. Negro was banned all over the African continent because of British and other forms of European colonialism. Yeah? African seamen used to smuggle the newspaper into different countries. And in certain countries, especially in the British colonies, so-called, you could be imprisoned for life. Yeah? For being found with a page of the Negro World. You could be put to death for being found with a page of the Negro World. Yeah? But Africans were still smuggling it in. And how it used to go was like this. Brother or sister who could read English, Spanish, and French, because the Negro World was published in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and French. International. Used to read the newspaper to a village. And the children who heard what was being read to them had the responsibility of memorizing it and going around villages and disseminating the message to brothers and sisters. So you hear stories about places like Congo, where it was being prophesied that a man was going to come from across the seas and kick the colonizers out of Congo. We're not joking around here. This is what was going on. You're following me? But this newspaper played a key role in organizing the African world, linking Africans in America with Africans in Africa, and Africans in the Caribbean, Africans in South America and Central America. Does that make sense? So we're getting synchrony now. Universal, global synchrony of ideological thought patterns and actions is what's going on. You know what you hear me, I say. The International Convention of the African People of the World, 25,000 African people from around the world attended this convention, at which 2 great feats were achieved. One was the drafting of the Declaration of Rights of the Negro people of the world. Very, very important document. Basically, it served the purpose of describing, charting, documenting all of the injustices that Africans had been facing for the last 500 years. Yeah? And then going about listing all of the rights that African people were now declaring before the world. Now I said declaring because we're not begging nobody for nothing. We're not asking no questions. This is not a protest or a demonstration. We are African people. This is who we are. And this is what we declare. Say it and it is. Be and it is. Say it, go. No questions, not asked. Yeah? The second major feat was the establishment of a government in exile. Yeah? People say, well, who gave Marcus Garvey the right to elect presidents and prime ministers and all of the... Who gave Marcus Garvey the right? First of all, your question is stupid and erroneous, because this was not just Marcus Garvey. We're talking about 25,000 people that attended the thing, yeah, and thousands more who were turned away. In fact, I'll tell you better than that. The parade after the convention, which was 31 days, had 100,000 people marching under the flag of the red, the black, and the green, chanting advance, advance to victory, advance to meet the foe. Imagine 100,000 African people walking through America, Harlem, advance to meet the foe. Are you me? You're not, hey, sure, you're not hearing me, I said. You're not hearing me, I said. Listen, so, when you got 100,000 people, brothers and sisters, you can elect a government in exile to kick out European colonizers, simple as that. So people were elected as supreme potentates of the order of the Nile. Let me say it again. Supreme potentate of the order of the Nile. Understand the significance? Where is the Nile? And what is the significance of the Nile to Africa? The Nile is the origin and foundation of not just African but world civilization. So when you say supreme potentate of the order of the Nile, what you are doing is realigning, re-centralizing the focus of Africa and African civilization and culture in the hearts and minds of African people. And saying that we develop nation civilizations on the foundation of our own ancestral culture and civilization. I say it, go. Supreme potentate of the order of the Nile. And Papa Garvey was elected. He didn't appoint himself. He was elected provisional president of the United States of Africa. He ran against a brother from Nigeria called D. Gazi. Yeah? So not D. Gazi, D. Lewis. Yeah? D. Lewis. I never can find out what D stands for. But it's D. Lewis, yeah, according to the researcher of Baba Tony Martin, and Papa Garvey won the elections and was elected. And so, as a result, Papa Garvey was able to say things like, make no bones about it, we intend to kick every pale face out of Africa. Why? Because Africa I feel me. Africa I feel. I'm not feeding. Yeah? You following me? Alright, I got to move very quickly right about now. So we've got some enemies of Garvey, brothers and sisters. We have to deal with the enemies of Garvey very quickly. And because it's important for you to understand that Papa Garvey achieved all of this. The UNIA achieved all of this. Facing the intrigue of some of the greatest devils of the world. The biggest devils of the world. So you had the European imperialists. Yeah, primarily Britain and America, but all of Europe. Alright, then you had the communists and the socialists which is interesting, because the communists and the socialists are supposed to be against the imperialists. But in many aspects of the UNIA legacy, you can find alliances between the communists and the imperialists to mash up the Garvey movement. Very serious thing, very serious thing. Then you have the integrationists who thought they weren't interested in nationhood and self-reliance and them things there. No. They were looking for more crumbs from the master's table. And then you had the infiltrators and this devil by the name of J. Edgar Hoover, who cut his teeth mashing up African organizations in terms of trying to sabotage the Garvey movement. Moving on very, very swiftly. So institution building, brothers and sisters, Papa Garvey says to us, it is necessary for the Negro to pay close attention to developing an appreciation for institutional life. It is incumbent upon him that he also have and control his own institutions based upon his own cultural, civilized ideals, supreme potentate of the order of the Nile. I love saying it, you know, brothers and sisters. It's nice, it's beautiful. It rolls off the tongue. As for instance, he may have his own church, but it is not necessary for him to adopt the particular articles of faith of the church of other races. He is not a Hebrew, therefore he would not adopt the Hebrew faith. He is not by origin a Roman Catholic or Anglican, because these faiths were made and religions were made and founded by white men with an idea of their own. His universities and colleges and schools may engage in the same process of education, but with an adopted curriculum necessary for the special benefit of the African, with the absolute objective of attaining the end that is particularly desired by the race. So African-centered education, brothers and sisters, is not just the national curriculum with a bit of African history thrown in. Yeah, you could talk about the pyramids and the Sphinx and them kind of things there. No, it's about what are the problems of the African people. What problems do we need to solve, and how do we educate the children in a manner that they're able to solve those problems specific to the problems of the African people, brothers and sisters? Does that make sense? Okay, let's move on very quickly. Essential principles of Garveyism, and I'm going to deal with this, I'm going to close, because all of that institution building was done on an ideological basis. And the ideological basis, as Papa Garvey defined it, was African fundamentalism. That means we're dealing with all things that are fundamental to being African. Fundamentally. Yeah. Alright. So the first principle of African fundamentalism, as identified by again, Baba Tony Martin is race first. So you have self-reliance, then you have nationhood, and then you have, as we add as the Al-Qibla Revivalist movement, because we understand the centrality of spirituality to Papa Garvey legacy, we add African spiritual orthodoxy. Let's go through and explain them using the words of Papa Garvey himself. Race first. In a world of wolves, one should go armed. And one of the most powerful defensive weapons within reach of African people is the practice of race first. In all parts of the world, yes, put your race first like all other races do. That means that everybody else I put themselves first, you can put yourself first, and don't ask nobody no question, just do it. All right. Okay. That explains itself. Self-reliance. Power is the only argument that satisfies man. Except the individual, the nation, the race has power that is exclusive. That individual, nation, or race will be bound by the will of others who possess this great qualification. The African must get power. Power in every kind. Power in education. Power in science. Power in industry. Power in higher government. Power in politics. That kind of power that will stand out so that other races and nations will see, if not feel. Speaks for itself, right? Self-reliance. Moving on very quickly. Nationhood. No race is free unless it has a nation of its own system of government, its own order of society. Never give up this idea. Never be satisfied to live under the government of other people, because you will always be at their mercy. Visualize for yourself. Visualize for yourself. Your own kings, queen, emperors, presidents, your own government officials and administrators who look like you. 2 criteria. They have to be your own and they have to look like you. So we ain't talking about Obama. We're not talking about Barack Obama, brothers and sisters. I'm sorry to disappoint some of you. I know some of you are going to be disappointed. We are not talking about Barack Obama because he's not our own. He must feed him. You following me? Okay. All right. Moving on very swiftly. We are determined. Why? What's the purpose of nationhood? We are determined to solve our own problems by redeeming our motherland Africa from the hands of alien exploiters and founding a government and nation of our own strong enough to lend protection to the members of our race scattered all over the world and to compel the respect of the nations and the races of the earth. People say that Papa Garvey, with Africa focus and so on and so forth, but I've already explained to you that this was a world mission. A universal mission. We are African people, so we're Africa focused. Just like if you are a follower of Islam, whenever you pray to Mecca. Not because you don't understand that there's Muslims all over the world, but because Mecca is central to Muslims. So therefore Africa is central to the African. And as an African nation, there used to be a saying, brothers and sisters, that everybody has a flag, but the coon. Well, the UNIA dealt with that, brothers and sisters, because they gave us the flag of the red, black and green. Yeah? Nationhood. Through a flag for the African people of the world. Red for the blood of our sacrifice of our ancestors, black for the people, and Africa for the motherland and the prosperity of the future. African spiritual orthodoxy. If the white man has an ideal of a white God, let him worship his God as he desires. If the yellow man's God is of his race, let him worship his God as he sees fit. The God of Isaac and the God of Jacob, let him exist for the race who believes in the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. Lord have mercy. I don't have time to go into the significance of that line alone. That's their ancestors, All right. Anyway, we believe in the God of Ethiopia, Africa, the black God, the everlasting God, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost, the one God of all ages. That is the God in whom we believe, and we shall worship him through the spectacles of Ethiopia. Ilia Selassie, Rastafari, and I. Giving honor and praise. Oh, by the way, if you want to know more about that, brothers and sisters, because I'm breaking it down on the 12th of Messiah. Look on your chair, look for the flyer. We're dealing with this thing. We're going to be going into Papa Garvey's spiritual legacy in a way that I don't have time to go into today, but it's very, very important and one of the most understudied and underappreciated aspects of the Garvey legacy. I'm dealing with a subject called Marcus Messiah Garvey and Black Liberation Spirituality, brothers and sisters. Come out on the top of Messiah and I'll break it down nice and easy for you, okay? Right. Giving honor and praise to this great African woman we gave honor and praise to earlier, and I'm saying the level of, and I want to thank Mama, Queen Nzinga, for the book. Seriously, because I'm reading the book and the depth of this woman and what she went through. Understanding that, and I have to say this, understanding that when Papa Garvey was incarcerated, much of the leadership on the daily running of the UNIA fell on her shoulders. Yeah, so she would have to deal with the attacks that he was facing from within and without. From idiot man who didn't feel that she had the potential to be in that position. And she stood against it. Yeah, and much of what we know and understand about Papa Garvey's legacy today, brothers and sisters, understanding that after he died, there was a systematic process of trying to wipe his name from history, and it were people like Amy Jakes Garvey who kept that alive. Yeah, when the 60s revolution was in full fruition, it was Amy Jakes Garvey who was the authority on Garvey and Garveyism, and she stepped into the role and kept his name alive so that elder brother Tony Martin can pick it up at a later date. Make it known. Anyway, we've got to move on, car time. So yeah, these are the books that you need to get. All right, look around, see if any of the stores have got them, and look at the history and the legacy. All these people are born out of the legacy of the legacy of the UNIA in one way, shape, or form. We don't have time to go into it, but we have to also understand that there's an unbroken line of leadership from Papa Garvey all the way down to the current President General, brothers and sisters. In 1938. 1938. It's at the back of the program. 1938, Papa Garvey started his School of African Philosophy, where he was training specifically the new leadership of the organization. Yeah? 5 men and 5 women. And the first 4 people that are named here, brothers and sisters, was taught directly by Papa Garvey himself. Yeah? Honor and praise to the name of James R. Stewart, Thomas W. Harvey, William L. Sherrill, Charles Linnell James, Reginald Wesley Maddox, Marcus Garvey Jr., Redmond Battle, Mwalimu Edward G., and the current President General, brothers and sisters, 9th successor to the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, Baba Senghor Baye, who will be joining us in this country for the 100th celebration of the UNIA-ACL, brothers and sisters. Check the flyer, it's on your chair, make it known, and be there. Support the elder. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. Alright? Now, last and finally, brothers and sisters, I have to tell you about the vision of the International African People's Parliament, or should I say the vision of the National African People's Parliament, because we are just simply trying to build the legacy of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Asking the Garveyite question, as Elder Cecil says, what are the conditions of African people in this country, and what institutions do we need to be able to meet those needs and solve those problems, brothers and sisters? This is what we are doing. inap.org.uk. inap.org.uk. Get the information, get involved. And last and finally, I want everybody to look on the chair and find the Mosiah leaflet. Very quickly. The Mosiah leaflet. The month of Mosiah. Because we don't call the month August no more. Because we're not the children of Augustus Caesar. We are the children of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. So we dash with Augustus. And we big up Mosiah. Simple as that. Take the flyer, brothers and sisters. Don't put it down and fling it where. Very important. It's an entire month. 31 days of observance and celebration of the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. That's my time, brothers and sisters. Thank you very, very much for listening. I hope I was able to enlighten some of you. Garvey lives! Mosiah lives! Tender warrior.
Tenamwari, brothers and sisters. Okay. Tenamwari, brothers and sisters, we can do better than that. Brother ShakaRa, come back in. Brother. Yeah. Yeah. Tenamwari, I just wanted to give our brother another hailing, just to show our appreciation to him and the deliverance of his message. Tenamwari.
Yeah. Cheers. Soldier MC, yeah? Been a while. Alright, listen. Sipping, chilling, a couple brothers are billing. You can't hack me in your system, prescription is penicillin. The Bible is a tool of man, cause it was written. We are civilizations and nations before religion. And they say in eeks, go too deep, and they won't listen. Cause the people on the end of the speaks are merely sheep. But the mind is a powerful weapon when it's conditioned. So tap into the eye and the pyramid. Period, blood-stained walls, teardrops on the floor. Distant memories of enemies that never fall. Ignorance is blind and a witness that never saw. Innocence is fine till you smash it, breaks on the floor. Money makes the world go round, feeding your lies, cause the wealth can disappear, but your spirit never dies. It resides in the hearts of the minds of those alive. So when you kick the bucket, you can't take your riches for the ride. Stay true to who you, keep doing what you do. My whip, that's you too. Be loyal or move through. Living in a system of oppression, we shouldn't leave you guessing why my people are regressing. On the planet we're the first, so take it for what it's worth. Beware the naked man who's offering a shirt. Little innocent children dying all around the globe, but they're quick to throw a prayer for Boston because we're told. Believe none of what you hear, on half of what you see. Think for yourself, your own thoughts you can see. Believe none of what you hear, on half of what you see. Think for yourself, your own thoughts you can see. Then believe. Eeks. Yo. Yeah. Messiah lives. Garvey lives. Messiah lives. Garvey lives. Messiah lives. Garvey lives. Messiah lives. Garvey lives. Yo. Alright, let me take it way back here. Look, 500 years when they came to the motherland. The gun in one and the Bible in the other hand. And all of this was sanctioned by the Pope of Rome. Lost in this mental made the soldiers trying to solve the code. They snatch our children from our mothers at birth. They're still snatching our children. What doesn't that hurt? We need a movement deep rooted that doesn't lack worth and ain't scared to rise up in the belly of the beast. Flame fire bomb Babylon and bring them to their knees for raping our queens like they were less than human beings. And apologize for pushing black boys into the street. Put the strolling in their palm, make him aim and tell them squeeze. And for telling like girls they ain't beautiful naturally, made in the image of a goddess, so it has to be. Sisters take out, it's a catastrophe. Brothers stop chasing on white women, it's blasphemy. Looking at Turner, let's see the revolution. Let's find the fighting spirit we had and never lose it. Would you stand up to the devil in his own backyard by any means necessary? Like Malcolm, would you take a shooting? Took me a good couple decades to answer that quest, and now I'm in the right mindset, the answer is yes. 1 bullet to the chin, 15 to the chest, and watch me rise on my up. You're saying Eeks isn't blessed. Me and my brothers stand strong, we see this path to the end. Now I ain't gonna lie, sometimes man I feel to quit. I don't feel equipped, and I feel that I ain't built for it, but I see the bigger picture, so I brush it and I deal with it. Another thing I can't take is brothers screaming diamond shining, living up for people dying. Why they diamond mining? We live in whining down in silence and we blame the tyrants. If we are right, then we turn a blind eye to violence. And we don't know when we don't moan until they stick the knife in. One of our own, it hits home like, why is it like this? We do anything for Gucci or like flipping night tick. We treat our sisters like, see if your sister likes it. Tell me why are we fighting? We need to be united. Pour some gasoline on the system, tell the children to light it. And see the black fist rise in the sunshine. So no more dining with the devil, eat with people like us. Eeks, I'm out. Messiah lives. God lives. Tell them word.
Each to their own still, but we must know what is our own. And our own is Africa. And Africa calling us all the time, and it's saying these words. Like comforting hands, warm, black sincere, strong to your face, and knowing I am now your strength, soothe your brow. No heavy weight, no wrinkles, no sweat. Know me. I am black soul. Take me. Use me like an ointment, I shall pour over your wounds, the wounds of the flesh and the wounds of the mind, the slow healing wounds of Babylon's terrible torture. Know me. I am blackness. I am identity. Take me. With the joy of knowing that I was always there, at your side, in your heart, and shout me like a song of defiance from the high hill, from the 58th balcony. Amplify me to uncountable wattage, make Babylon tremble, for I shall not be denied. Know me, for I am your future. I water the flower of your past. I was your song of unity, but now you are far flung, you are withered and dismembered, but you shall bloom again, and you are not denied, for I am still your song of unity, and I am on the horizon of that look in your eye. I am Chem, I am Kush, I am Meroe, I Monomotapa, I Zimbabwe, I Kem, I Alkebulan, I Ethiopia, I Zimbabwe, I am Africa. I am Africa. Take me. With the knowledge that I am undeniably yours, and from deep, deep within, free me.
Amari, give thanks for that. Tenaimari. Okay, our next presentation, I would like to invite to the rostrum, our elder, historian in the African community, nationally and internationally, I should say. We would like to call Elder Cecil Gutzmore. Can you give him a round of applause, please? Tenamai.
Sisters and brothers, Garvey lives. And we have the task of making Garvey's life real. Making Garvey's life real again in this moment. My task this afternoon is, and I will quote building on the UNIA-ACL legacy moving forward. Brother Tafazwa showed us how far Garvey took us. And it matters that he took us that far. It matters that we had enough race pride. It mattered that we had enough self-organization. It mattered that we had enough self-confidence to do what we did in Garvey's time. Inside of that presentation, I believe it was our young brothers, he said that Garvey's moment was just after the Berlin Congress, when Africans were menaced in a particularly serious way. In 1914, Garvey, not coming from nothing, coming from preparation. Preparation matters. We cannot follow Garvey, we cannot build on Garvey unless we do as much preparation as he did. So the preparation matters. But importantly, my brothers and sisters, we will not be able to build on Garvey unless we realize just how revolutionary Marcus Garvey was. Just how revolutionary Marcus Garvey was. Young Brother Tafazwa said that I am fond of saying that Marcus Garvey asked some questions. This was in 1914. Having looked around, Garvey asked the question, what is the condition that us Africans find ourselves in? One, and two, what is it that us Africans have to do to get out of the condition in which we find ourselves? It was a condition of colonization. It was a condition of degradation. Garvey's program, and this matters, my brothers and sisters, all of what Tafazwa said about what was achieved is real. But fundamentally, Garvey said, we had to liberate ourselves and unify our continent. We had to liberate ourselves and unify our continent. And it is important, my brothers and sisters, that we understand now that it took fellow Africans a while to understand what Garvey was saying and to catch up with him. And that the extent to which we caught up with Garvey was very partial. And it matters that it was partial. So, when in 1945, Africans gathered at a very important event called the 5th Pan-African Congress, what was happening there was that Africans gathered in that Congress, and Garvey had by that time 8 that were bigger. 8 that were bigger, beginning in 1920. But what happened in 1945 was that the African world caught up with Garvey, partially. They conceded and understood that Africa had to be liberated. But they saw and unified, but they saw the liberation as purely a liberation from colonialism, from white rule. And that was not Garvey's program. Nor, importantly, my brothers and sisters, was the mode of unity that they engaged in. Not the total unification of Africa. Nothing like that has yet been achieved. And that nothing like that has yet been achieved, and that all we have managed to do is liberate ourselves from political white rule means that Garvey's great achievement is only half, or perhaps even less than half, fulfilled. And it matters. Because it has left us, my brothers and sisters, under neocolonialism. Under neocolonialism. With a class of people running our countries who not have too much sense, right? Not have to put it politely. They are busy running us into the ground in a way that we have not previously been. On all other historical occasions, my brothers and sisters, the white people and our enemies had to conquer to take. We now have a leadership that is willing to sign away everything and have done so. And have done so. That is what neocolonialism is. Right? It's a class of folk whose task it is to run things on behalf of the enemy of the African masses. Marcus Garvey did not recommend that. And if Marcus Garvey came back today and asked the question, and that was his question, what is the condition that us African people face today? He would have to describe that condition, just for those of us, not us here. We know we live in the belly of the beast, and somebody in this program already pointed out the extent to which, if things have changed at all for us, they have changed for the worse. Right? So, we now talk about Yasso. Africa and Jamaica and them kind of place. And what Marcus Garvey's question would lead us, the answer that it would lead us to, is neocolonialism. And the prescription would be that the African revolution against neocolonialism represents the only way of saving ourselves. The only way of saving ourselves, because the enemy is now more facilitated than ever by us and more ruthlessly oriented towards ripping us off and killing us than they have ever been, and I am including during the time of enslavement. They are taking billions daily from Africa in oil, in plutonium, in diamonds, in gold. The list is endless. In fish, right? We have people educated at the Sorbonne and the LSE and Oxford who will sign away for $1 million the fishing rights of 50 and 100,000 Africans. They will say to the Europeans, come in and fish our coast. And when the Europeans done, after 2 of them boats run up and down, the man them who've been fishing there for thousands of years go out and can't catch nothing. Starvation. Right? And that is around the entire African coast, not just dealing with fish, but you can see it with oil, you can see it with everything. My brothers and sisters, Garvey's program suggests the answer to the conditions that we face now, just as in 1914, the same question produced the answer that led to the UNIA. Now we have to ask questions about why the UNIA failed in the way it did. It was because it was in a way before its time. It was in a way because the white people understood exactly what was coming at them and put in place the mechanisms for destroying it. We hear about the Liberia project. What happened to the Liberia project? It's not because Africans didn't invest properly in it. It's not because it wasn't well organized by Marcus Garvey and his people. Both of those two things were true. It fell apart because the ruling circle in Liberia, fearful of Garvey's links with poor Africans in the interior, and mindful of what the white people were saying to them about how dangerous Garvey was, proceeded to destroy the project. Garvey had lots of enemies in his day. If you say W.E.B. Du Bois, you will be mentioning one of them, right? So, yes, absolutely. But importantly, the destroyers of that project were in Africa. And it's important that we understand that when we're talking about neocolonialism, it's not new. They set up Haiti after that glorious revolution. They set up Haiti after that first glorious revolution as the first neocolony. That is why Haiti is in the situation that it presently is in. Not just because they forced them to pay the slave master, which they did, but inside of Haiti, right from the 1820s, a class of people have been created whose function it is to keep the poor people poor, to take what they can from them and to give the white world the rest. And when it's not going well, the white world invades to make sure that it goes better in their interest. Haiti is the first neocolony. And Liberia was the next one. And after the Second World War, everywhere else became neocolonies. That is not the Garvey vision. And if we Africans now want to fulfill Garvey's vision, let me repeat that we have to realize how revolutionary Garvey's questions were and how revolutionary Garvey's proposal for solution were and how necessary it is for us Africans to embrace that program. And it's the program for the African Revolution. It's the program for African liberation. It's the program for African unification. Nothing else will do. And if we attempt to do less than that, we are embracing our own destruction. And Garvey counseled and organized and told ourselves to love ourselves sufficiently as not to let that happen to us. As not to let that happen to us. So racial pride, racial self-love, racial self-organization, recognizing who the racial enemies are, and organizing to defeat them in their alliance with the white imperialist enemy, that is our task. And it is the only way, my brothers and sisters, in which we can genuinely build on what Garvey left us with. Thank you.
Don't worry, brothers and sisters, we can do better than that. Give him a round of applause.